Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of the Edges and Sledges Cricket Podcast. I'm your host, Ashwin. I'm joined by DJ. It's a bit of an odd hour. I think we are live on YouTube, but it's a strange time, so I don't expect too many of you are tuning in live, but hopefully you listen soon. DJ, how are you doing, man? I always think about how our moods fluctuate so much on this show, and the energy of this show is so different based on India's most recent result. So, but a pretty great day to record after our biggest ever ODI victory over Pakistan, right?
Yeah, it's. I'm in a pretty good mood. The cricket season finished yesterday, unfortunately, but now cricket watching season has begun, and
By the way, you
what?
mentioned you mentioned your cricket season. Not that anybody actually listens or cares. We're here to talk about. You're here to listen to us talk about India Pakistan. But you had a pretty nice knock batting at 7 yesterday for your club cricket team, right?
Yeah, it was good. Well, I was just playing the supporting act. The guy who actually got the runs was batting at three. He got 147 not out,
Yeah, but you
but
made
we were.
61 or something.
Yeah, we were
69.
85 for five, chasing 278, and he just needed someone to hang around with him for the rest of the overs, and we knocked them off. A
And you did.
193 run partnership,
And you
pretty
picked up
easy.
2 for 50, I think, in 8 overs. So Varun was very ready to proclaim you as our very own Shardul Thakur. If you can pick up 2 for 50 and bat make 60 odd batting at 7, that's it. You're the new resident Shardul.
Well, no, he didn't even try Jadeja or anything. He went straight to Shardul or
I mean,
Hardik. None of that.
you're
None of
quick
that.
enough, and Hardik 7 is too low for Hardik. So I think that's basically why you're too
Oof.
quick for Jadeja, and 7 is too low for Hardik. So
Oof.
Shardul.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah.
Anyway, yeah. Sorry, I cut you off, but we're here to talk about India, Pakistan. How are you feeling?
Yeah, I mean 356 for two. See, this is all 3D chess, right? This is Jay Shah at his finest. Tell me how India got knocked out of the 2019 final, World Cup semi-final.
I mean, the 2 day international.
And what does Jay Shah produce for you? The only reserve day in the Asia Cup for India Pakistan. This is literally 3D chess. You're preparing for every eventuality.
Okay,
So
so
this
let's
is
talk a little bit
awesome.
about this because there's a lot to unpack, right? I mean, there's a lot that's happened, and we will talk in the second half of the show about the other games that happened, India, Nepal, and a couple of the others this week. We're going to talk mostly Asia Cup, but and there's actually a lot happening. David Warner made another century as an opener for Australia. There's a lot happening in the world of cricket, but we're going to start with India, Pakistan, and we're going to start with the fact that it ended up becoming a 2 day international, right? India batted for 24.1, I think, overs on the first day, and then came back, finished the match on the second day. What a lot of drama, right? Reserve day added in only for India Pakistan, and then a separate lot of discussion on like why is it only for this one? Is this basically an Asia Cup just a farce to get India Pakistan to play each other? If they really want to play each other that badly and bring the eyeballs, then why don't they just play bilaterals? And TJ, what's your overall take? And then let's chat a little about some of the former cricketers who've been weighing in, especially on Twitter, on this one.
So overall, I mean, it's all been farcical, man. Like you've seen the memes going around, right, about how Colombo's underwater, Palikele is underwater, Hambantota is underwater, whereas there are plenty of places in Asia which have teams that are participating in this tournament that maybe the host Pakistan could have hosted it without any threat of rain. So it's all a bit silly. I mean, if you're playing cricket in Sri Lanka in August, September,
Monsoon, rainy season, yeah.
I mean, like, come on,
Yeah.
it is a farce, and it wasn't meant to be scheduled here. And yeah, this is why you've seen this, and having a reserve day only for India Pakistan. Of course, the organizers have organized everything. The World Cup is organized having at least one India Pakistan clash, right? Because the entire world watches it. It is one of the world's biggest watched rivalries, whether it lives up to the billing or not on the field. Yes, the MCG game did, but today's game didn't. It was completely one sided, and we've had plenty of one sided events as well. So, I mean, it is a little farcical. It's a little bit unfair. It's a little bit odd to have just one. Now, India is going to play 3 days in a row because they've played the first day, which has got washed out 24 overs in. They then played the second day, which is the reserve day, and they didn't play from 10 a.m. or 11 a.m. onwards. They only started in the afternoon, and again they had a rain delay and a rain break and stuff. So it was not like they were just trying to get the game in. It's eyeballs. It's all about television. It's all about the rating. I don't want to sound too cynical, but I mean, if you wanted to really get a game of cricket in to get the players practicing, why wouldn't you start the reserve day at 10 a.m., giving them the biggest possible chance of completing the game? Now India finish a game that restarted at 9:20 p.m. local time. Luckily, it finished early, but you could have had that situation what happened in the IPL final, right? Like Bumrah or Shami running in at
Yeah.
1 o'clock at night to
Yeah.
bowl the final over, which is ridiculous. And then they've got another game Tuesday, which is tomorrow, playing Sri Lanka. So India would have spent 3 days. So a team spending 3 days, it's good. We've got a few test players because they're used to playing 3 days in a row, right?
Yeah, I'm not sure it's exactly the same vibe, but I mean, it's interesting. And so here's the crazy thing for me, though, right? All the nonsense about reserve days, all the back and forth, and why do we do this and this and that. All the By the way, the last 6 to 8 months of maybe more of discussion about the decline of the ODI format, right? There's a whole separate debate we can have it as well about the farce of the ticket ticket sales from the BCCI and how badly that's gone, and the fact that the schedule for the ODI World Cup in India wasn't released till late. Then it was changed. Then it was changed again, and different things, and all this kind of stuff. There's a million ways to go about it. A lot of negativity about the ODI game, about the World Cup, about the scheduling, all that. And then you come out and have two centuries, a five for, a Jaffa to dismiss the number one ODI batter in the world. And suddenly we're so excited about it all over again. Everything is back. We're just like, is are we just that fickle as India fans? I mean, I'm saying that about you and me, not about the rest of them.
Yeah, of course we are. Of course we are. We are. What is the flavor of the month, right? Like if India's played badly, you're in a bad mood for the rest of the day, Ashwin. Don't lie to me. When you lose a
No,
test match,
for sure,
you're
man. I
fuming by the end of the day because it's like it dictates our mood way too much.
Yeah, and I sat here saying, man, I think the future of this sport is T20s and tests, right? Both of them are very, are going to be here, and I don't know where ODI leagues belong and this and that, ODI matches belong and all that. And now I'm sitting here so excited. So with that happy kind of dose of hypocrisy about our approach on the game, we're going to talk about India versus Pakistan. 228 run victory. These are a couple stats, right? Fourth biggest ever victory for India in ODIs. Fourth biggest ever. The first of which, by the way, was this year against Sri Lanka.
And what is the biggest one, like Bermuda or something?
Yeah, the biggest was against Sri Lanka, then Bermuda, then Hong Kong, which of course, and then Pakistan, fourth biggest. The second largest ever defeat for Pakistan by run. This is only by runs, right? Because you can win by 10 wickets or lose by 10 wickets. So this is only by runs. Second largest ever defeat for Pakistan, only by a margin of 6 runs. The fourth largest ever margin in an ODI Asia Cup. And I mean, there's so many different ways you can go. I think it was actually Pakistan's third lowest total against India in ODIs. India's biggest margin against Pakistan. So a lot of stats to go behind. But across the 2-day international, let's start by talking about team selection. Okay, so Shreyas Iyer, I don't know what's actually going on, right? Had a niggle in the nets or whatever it is again immediately after coming back. And KL Rahul comes in at number 4. Incidentally, the position that Sunil Shetty batted at in one of these legends kind of games or one of these celebrity games, which I love that you were talking about KL's father-in-law at 4. But talk to me about that, right? KL not only came in at 4, but 7 or 8 overs into Pakistan's innings, picked up the gloves from Ishan Kishan. So what does that signal? What's the think tank thinking?
There's so much to unpack here because obviously the whole chat has been around who's going to bat at number 4. Then Ishan Kishan scored runs at
Which
number
seems
5.
like it's just perennial, right? We've been talking
Yeah,
about number 4 forever, but yeah.
yeah, we've got too many contenders now. There's no problem. It's okay.
Yeah.
You can just rotate them. My sister actually sent me a great tweet. It said, if Rahul doesn't perform in this game, then Iyer's back spasm will be transferred to him in the next game. Because it's such a classic, like
Yeah.
like
Next
he's
game,
got a niggle or he's got
Yeah.
like a back spasm which comes from nowhere. In fact, on this one, Iyer was on the team sheet
yeah,
submitted before
and it
the
was
game.
scratched out, right?
Yeah, it's
That pen.
unbelievable.
Was that
Yeah, but
real? I
mean,
couldn't tell if that was real or like some sort of doctored image.
No, I think it was real. I think it was actually real.
Wow.
The other thing is Shetty, Sunil. There's some great images of him going around batting at 4. And I was like, maybe this is what KL actually needed to spend some time with like his father-in-law, the real coach, instead of like Dravid and Ravi Shastri and those guys. He's had time away from the game. He's watched his father-in-law bash the ball around, and he's like, "This old man's got some tricks, so let me follow him." Honestly, I think he was just fresh, right? He's
Yeah.
he's come out fresh. He's wanting to perform, and what a message to send! I mean, 100 from number 4. He played, I think, on a day that Kohli scored a magnificent 122. I feel almost like a traitor, but that flick shot that he played of Shadab against the spin, it was, for me, it was a shot of the day. Unbelievable batting.
So was it the shot of the day or the shot of both days? That was the question.
It was a shot of both
Because there were
days,
some nice
probably.
shots on day one, but anyway,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah, but
being
like Rohit, you expect him to pull it and put away the full toss. He like murdered Shadab's first spell, right?
yeah. So let's talk about it quickly, right? Rohit
Yeah,
started horrendously, like just started the most slow, and suddenly, like 15 or 20 minutes later, he had caught up with Shubman's strike rate and caught up with his runs. I mean, nice to see. Let's be clear. We expect to be 5 for 3, maybe best case 15 for 3 or like 35-40 for 3 against Shaheen, Naseem, and Haris, right? Like that's just what you come to expect. And so seeing the openers put on over 100 runs, both of them getting 50s, pretty exciting. Good to see. Any comments on that? Gill looked ready to go from ball one. He looked aggressive. He was hitting it nicely. He was hitting it really clean. Rohit struggled a little, but then again, Shadab was the turning point a little bit for him where he started unleashing. Nice to see our openers come good.
yeah, it was. I mean, they came good against Nepal as well. Don't forget, we won that by
Mhm.
10 wickets. I was pretty pissed off actually that we chose to field against Nepal, because I was just like, what are we gaining from this? Oh, I guess we gained a little bit of form for Shubman Gill, who struggled
Mhm.
against Pakistan. He looked pretty horrific. And Rohit as well got going in that, and that almost translated into their approach in this innings, because of course they, in the back of their mind, they would have had that those dismissals in the first game that India played, where we were 48 for 3 and then 66 for 4, I think. uh, it was a refreshing. I mean, I think Rohit got off the mark with a flicked 6 of Shaheen. I think there was a little bit
After
of
5 dot
maybe,
balls, but yeah,
yeah, but a
yeah.
little bit of overconfidence maybe from the
Mhm.
Pakistanis, thinking they're just going to roll up and dismiss the Indian openers. They have had the wood over those guys in the recent past, but it was quite something to see us go after them, their opening bowlers. And when Shadab came on, just, I mean, all hell just broke loose.
Yeah.
It was clearly a targeted plan that these guys had put together to go, like, if once the leggy comes on, he's just going. And boy, Rohit and Shubman just executed that perfectly. Of course, if you live by the sword, you die by it. And Rohit got out eventually, just hitting one down too long off. Good catch, but the damage by then, I would say, had actually been done.
Yeah, so then let's talk about after the dismissal, right? Like we've seen this so many times with partnerships, especially openers. When one goes, the other does too, right? I think 7 or 8 balls after Rohit gets out to Shadab, Shubman gets out to Shaheen. I mean, it was a great delivery. Don't get me wrong, or great bowling. And then so you have Kohli came in at 3, which Varun disputes the validity of, despite
It's
being the
only it's
best.
only 13,000 runs that he's
It's only
got.
the best number 3 maybe in the history of time, right?
Yeah.
And then Rahul walks in at 4, and not really not going from day one, from ball one, if you will, but sort of a little bit of a tentative start. What was very different to me, incidentally, and I don't have the numbers in front of me, I don't know if you do, is the amount of strike rotation straight off the bat. The difference between Rohit Gill, who were dot 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 4 dot dot 6 dot dot, maybe the occasional 2. Rahul and Kohli just rotated the strike so much more effectively. And you think back to the most traditional kind of playbooks in ODI cricket, and that's the role from over 15 through 40, right? The best players in those overs rotate strike effectively, hit the loose balls. How noticeable was that to you, DJ? Right, as you think about a 200 plus run partnership, both guys getting centuries, very different to the guys who got 50s and perished. Any thoughts?
No, I mean, and that is their role, right? And it was interesting that I think one of the commentators brought up as well Kohli's dot ball percentage when he got to
Mm-hmm.
100. And he played less than, I think he got to there in 84 balls. Again, I'm not the stats guy, I'm just quoting from memory. But I think he got to his 100 in about 84 balls, of which only 27 or 28 were dots. Everything else, he had like 15 twos in there. He had maybe 9 4s. It wasn't a big boundary percentage. We just
Mm-hmm.
showed you how well he had rotated. I think KL was probably a bit more reliant on boundaries. a bit more in the Rohit and Shubman mode, but Kohli's dot ball percentage, and I'm sure you'll pull the stats up from somewhere, but I just don't know how to work the system properly.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have the dot ball percentage, but if you look at since they came in, right, between kind of overs 18 and 30, they hit, and which is 12 overs, they hit 4 boundaries between the two of them. Then in the 31st over, they hit two. In the 33rd over, they hit two. And again, they were picking on Iftikhar a little bit, right? In the 34th over, they hit one. In the 35th, they hit two, including a six, right? Then you could just see the acceleration kind of happen. And to me, that was the beauty of this partnership. It was beautifully paced. Is there a world where you sit there thinking you could have started the acceleration earlier? Now, we won by 228, so it didn't matter in the end. But is there a world where you're thinking by like 32, 33 overs is when they started accelerating, knowing that you have Kishan and Hardik, two of the biggest hitters in the dugout, would you have started the acceleration a little earlier?
It's always a good question because if I think they were struggling with timing a little bit. If you're watching the game and you would have seen that there was a bit of both of them were still struggling with timing into the late 30 overs and maybe even into the 40th onwards. They were struggling with timing. There's always the danger when you've got a good start that you go a bit too early and then you don't end up getting what you get up maybe on that track. What they decided and what they thought was the batters that are set are probably the ones that are best placed to do the damage.
And we saw it happen, right? We saw them do this. We saw them do the damage in the
They
last
did the
few
damage,
overs.
and it was hard
Yeah.
to start when you saw the Pakistani batters come out to try and hit the ball from ball one. I think it was only Shaheen Shah Afridi that hit 1-6 in the entire innings. That was the 32nd over. And so maybe that's the call that they took, reading the pitch, saying it's going to be hard for even the guys of class of Kishan, Jadeja, Pandya, even Shardul. It'd be hard for these guys to come in and go from ball one, maybe. And that's perhaps what was playing a little bit in their minds. I know it's Kohli. Kohli's mandate would have been to bat through the innings.
Yeah.
And today, what we saw was fitness from both those players. I mean, incredible fitness to run those runs in that way. The number of twos they ran, just brilliant. But I mean, in the final analysis, we won easily. But if somehow Pakistan had gotten close or chased them down, that's the question that would have been asked. Did
Yeah.
they go too slowly and then strike rate is overrated? Would have been quoted at KL, etc. So
Yeah. And listen, most
you've
days
got
of the
to
week you pick.
trust the guys to make the decision, right?
Yeah, most days of the week you'll take 356. I think the question is just you look at 120 and 16 overs and say, what was the target in mind at that point? But then again, I say that, but then also you say 123, we lost both openers. So you have to quickly readjust and reassess. I think we can talk about this all day, but phenomenal batting performance. That's all there is to be said. When you're numbered 1 and 2 make 50s, your numbers 3 and 4 make centuries. That's it. That's what you want to do. I'm under no illusion that this is India's ability to turn it around for every game from here on. But it did just give us a glimpse of what this kind of a top order with the right balance of experience and youth and energy is capable of. So with
And
that,
someone has actually pointed out that all the batters in the top seven have or six have scored runs in this Asia Cup so far, other than Jadeja.
yeah,
And we know what he can do, right? So
yeah, absolutely.
it's good
Yeah.
news so far.
So good news on the batting. Why don't we take a really quick break, DJ? We'll come back, talk about the bowling, and then squeeze in a few minutes to talk about the other games that happened. Because of course, India Pakistan dominates our minds. We want to take a quick break. We will be right back. Welcome back to the Edges and Sledges Cricket Podcast. DJ, we talked about the batting, right? 356 is a fantastic total, but it can be chased down. It has been chased down before. In response to to have your bowlers deliver 128 all out. I mean, it was, I don't know if technically how the math works, because they only got 8 wickets, but then there was 2 who didn't show up. So I think it counts as all out. But, talk to me about it. I didn't get to watch as much of it, unfortunately, just given time zone for me. But a couple of highlights, right? One, from everything I saw, at least reading Cricket Info and CricBuzz commentaries and stuff, it felt like Jasprit Bumrah is back. I mean, 5 overs, 1 for 18 doesn't do justice to the way I read his impact, if you will. 2, Kuldeep Yadav with a 5-fer, right? Just how great is that to see? And 3, the ball that dismissed Babar Azam came from Hardik Pandya, a bowling all rounder. We have three full-time quicks in the team, or call it two, with two all rounders, if you will, for Shardul. But Babar has been in absolutely stunning form, and to get him dismissed was probably the ball that did it. So walk me through your analysis of the bowling on those three things.
Yeah, lots of stuff again. 128 for 8, I guess. Neither Naseem Shah batted, no Haris Rauf batted. Of course, Haris didn't even bowl today because he was off for a precautionary reason. And Naseem walked off in the 49th over. First time he went wicketless apparently in his career. 14, 15
Wow, that's a
ODIs.
good stat.
No, but it's only 14, 15 ODIs. Like, how much ODIs do they
It's
actually
still
play?
an interesting stat to say your first
Yeah,
ever. Yeah.
yeah. So, that, but then, I mean, the Bumrah spell, right? I think there's a Sid Monga article about this, so we'll put a link to that in the show notes. And I think he encapsulates it beautifully that this is what India were missing. And I think out of that 5 for 18, there were a few I don't know how many were wides because the ball was swinging prodigiously. Like, I think the first over had 5 wides. Kishan
Mhm.
dived but couldn't get it. And
Yeah,
then there
six
were a
wides.
couple more. Yeah,
Six
so
wides out of 18.
that's only 12 runs
Gosh.
off the bat, right, in his
Yeah.
5 over spell. And it was genuinely just he came over the wicket, took the ball away from the two left-handed batters over and over again. He tried to bring one back in. That's the one that slipped down the leg side. And then he went around the wicket to Imam, and he progressively got closer without getting too full, and he got that edge. And Shubman Gill just pouched it cool as anything. It was quite it was quite something to watch. And I keep thinking back to, like, I think the highest emotion I've ever felt in a cricket match hasn't been the World Cup final. It wasn't, maybe when Gabba happened, it was
I was going to
probably
say,
then.
not GABA. Yeah.
When Gabba happened, it was probably then. But I
Yeah.
think the most emotional I've ever felt about cricket has been at the Lord's Test match day 5. I don't
Mm.
think I've ever felt anything like that. And that gave you a glimpse of why it felt like that. It was Bumrah swinging the ball, running in with purpose. There wasn't that aggression, obviously, because it's a bit friendlier. It's not a test match. But then Pandya coming in and bowling Babar with that ball that just hooped and took mid wicket, zing bails flying everywhere. Siraj was running in with purpose as well. Shardul got a wicket as well just after the break. It was just everything was happening, and that was before Kuldeep actually got into the act. Kuldeep could have ended up with the 7 for the way he
Yeah,
was
that's
bowling.
true, actually. He didn't have the chance to get two more wickets.
There were only 8 wickets,
Mm-hmm.
and he picked up 5 of them, and
That's crazy.
he bowled brilliantly. There was the argument. There was somebody on commentary. I think it was. Uh, Sorry, talking about commentary. What Bumrah bowling while Wazim was commentating. It's actually quite
Yeah.
amazing to see that, because obviously heard him talk about Virat Kohli and all of that, but to hear a great bowler commentate while another great bowler is bowling is quite something,
It's
because
really special. Yeah.
he talks you through that. um Sorry, I've lost my there's the commentators were saying maybe Shami should be playing instead of Kuldeep
Hmm.
because he's a better bowler, that's their best lineup and all of that. And then this guy just comes in with his blonde highlights, which I absolutely love. I don't know whether you've seen his new hairstyle. So
No, I haven't. I didn't get to watch him today.
he's got blonde highlights now. He's going the
Amazing.
Hardik Pandya
Amazing.
way. Uh, but I mean, just absolutely incredible. He also had a catch dropped off him by the skipper in the first over. Didn't let that put his confidence down. And he bowled Fakar Zaman with a flipper. I mean, it's brilliant because once you get into the tail, they're clueless, right? They have no idea what to do with him, and it
Yeah.
was just brilliant. It's to watch our boy Kuldeep, because I think the Delhi Capitals have had a big part in this rehabilitation, because there'll be pictures of him still floating around when he's like drinking his water and in tears at KKR. But the confidence is built back, and he was the one that was dropped after that England mauling in 2019. Chahal played, and for him to come back from that and be the prime wrist spinner for India, the only wrist spinner in the squad, I think is an incredible achievement. It just shows his character and
Yeah.
his
And
talent, obviously.
couldn't agree more. Before we wrap on this match, did you see the clip doing the rounds on social media of Chahal picking up his first wicket in county cricket? I think he signed for Kent, and he just a beautiful leggy, clipped the bowled, beat the bat, clipped the off stump. It was just perfect. So nice to
So,
see both of them
oh, I didn't
doing
see
well, but
that.
in different places. Yeah. So
Interesting.
great to see. Right, DJ, just overall clinical, right? Two centuries, a 5-4, exactly what we would have wanted. Do you change anything going into the tomorrow's game against Sri Lanka, knowing that while it's not exactly a must win, it's pretty important to try to cement India's chances to make the finals? Do you rest some guys? Do you rest a Bumrah, for example, who he only bowled 5 overs, but back to back days, or what's the approach going into it? And or if you win the toss, do you try to bowl first this time to give your players some practice for a World Cup?
So actually, Sri Lanka have been playing out of their skins, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
They have beaten Bangladesh in the Nagin
Mm-hmm.
Derby. Um,
The Nagin Derby. We'll talk about that in a second.
I love it. Yeah, they beat Bangladesh.
I
They
don't think they've
got
lost
through.
yet, to be honest. I think
No,
they won both their in this Asia Cup. Yeah,
yeah,
they haven't. I think they're on a 16 ODI streak or something, if I remember seeing that correctly.
unbelievable. Yeah. So and
Gosh.
these are guys that you don't really know. I mean, obviously you know
Mm-hmm.
Dasun Shanaka and a couple of the
Mm-hmm.
other. Matikshana was injured and bowled a great spell and stuff. So I wouldn't take it lightly
Mm-hmm.
because we have suffered previously in at the hands of Sri Lanka at a World Cup in India. I mean, if for those of you old enough to remember '96.
Burning seats in Eden
Yeah.
and all that
So
stuff.
I don't know what we would do. I mean,
Or,
maybe I don't think the bowlers exerted too much.
mm-hmm.
Um, I think what you might want to do is to give some of the other. If Iyer is fit, give him a run.
Yeah.
Give Kishan the gloves back because obviously KL took over. He missed one chance, but he took over in the sixth over from him, which I thought was interesting. So what are we actually trying to do there? Because I thought Kishan was playing as the keeper, but suddenly Rahul's taken the gloves. You don't want to be in that England situation where Johnny Bairstow is fighting Josh Butler for the gloves because neither of them are 100% certain of their place in the side. Because I don't know. Maybe Butler was more certain, maybe Bairstow wasn't.
Yeah.
So I don't know what you'd exactly do, but what you can't do is take them lightly. So play a good side. I don't think you need to play. Maybe Kohli doesn't need to play. Maybe KL doesn't need to play because they batted a lot
Mm-hmm.
today. But Iyer could play, and you could give Sky a game. Why not? It's not like they are bad players. I'm sure they'll be fine. So give them
Yeah, I
some
think
game
that,
time.
I think it's just a strategy call, right? Do you try to stick to the 11 that is working, that you want to try to cement 6-7 weeks out from the World Cup, less maybe, less even. Gosh, only a few weeks out from the World Cup, or do you try to change it up and give some players opportunities? We will see what happens tomorrow. DJ, I've used almost all of our time to talk India Pakistan. Let's quickly talk about India's other match and then a couple of the other highlights on what happened because you mentioned the Nagin Derby. Let's start with India Nepal, right? I think you mentioned the batters. Great knock by Shubman and by Rohit. Nice to see them hit form. Chase out down 147. It was T20-esque chase thanks to the rain. Let's talk a little bit about the bowling, though, right? We talked about how effective Kuldeep was. He went wicketless in that match. Of course, Jadeja picked up 3. Shami played that match, picked up 1. Siraj looked pretty good, but honestly, shouldn't be conceding 230 to a side like Nepal, right? To begin with, they didn't get a wicket for the first almost 10 overs. Any reactions to that? Any concerns coming out of that from the quicks?
We missed a lot of chances, to be honest. There were a few chances
Yeah, fielding is
that
the
went down.
key thing to talk about,
Yeah,
actually.
it was pretty poor. You could see Rohit Sharma getting pretty frustrated with the whole situation, and uh, I mean, eventually it was an easy win with the bat, right? Because obviously Nepal doesn't have the class of bowler to challenge that Indian batting lineup. Um, but it wasn't. It was an untidy performance from India, is what I would say, and an off day. Like today was if today was a perfect day, that was an imperfect day. But that's what you're playing this tournament for, to iron out those kinks and have more perfect days than imperfect days, right? So I'd rather have an off day against Nepal than Pakistan because it'll probably make you pay less for it.
Yeah, I mean, well said. You have to limit the imperfect days as you get closer to a World Cup, right? So, but it does happen. There was three other key matches. Again, one of which being the Nagin Derby that you mentioned, that I just keep repeating because I love the phrase. And then a couple other good matches that happened through the weekend between India and Nepal, right? So I know Sri Lanka just eked out Afghanistan by 2 runs in the final match of the group stage. Pakistan then beat Bangladesh, and then of course Sri Lanka beat Bangladesh. So you want to hit some of the highlights of those matches that happened midweek?
Yeah, some lowlights actually. The Sri Lanka Afghanistan game, I think, was a particular lowlight for the analysts and statisticians, because basically what happened there is that they could have still qualified if they'd hit a boundary or a six off the next ball. It was basically the Mumbai Indians versus Rajasthan Royals, Rahul Dravid throwing his cap after Aditya Tare hit a six, because no one had told them they would still be able to get there.
Yeah, so it's net run rate math, right? And just for quick explanation, if you missed it, the net run rate basically said they need to win in, I think it was 37.1 overs was the math, right? So it came down to 3 runs off 1 ball. What they didn't think through is you can win a match in cricket by not just getting, let's say the target was 292. You can win a match by getting 293, 294, 295, because if your scores are level and you hit a 6, you get to 297, and that factors into your net run rate, which is a fascinating kind of nuance that only a sport like cricket really offers. But that's the math that needed to happen, right? The analysts needed to say, okay, you either need to get 292 and 37.1, but if you don't get there, like they just, it's like DRS, or DLS, excuse me. There needs to be a little cheat sheet that says Rashid's on the other end. If you're not getting the 6, that's okay. Take a single, tie it up, and then let him know that he needs a 4 or a 6. If he doesn't get it, the 4 won't work. You need 6, like that. It just blew my mind that, yeah. I mean, at the coach, who's their coach, Jonathan the Trot, at the end said, yeah, we didn't know. We didn't send the message out, and it just at this level. All right, sorry, DJ, I took the mic from you, but it just blew my mind.
Yeah, it was crazy, and it reminded you a little bit of when South Africa went out of their home World Cup in 2003.
22 needed off 1 ball.
No, that was 92. 2003,
Oh, you're
they
talking about,
blocked the last ball thinking they had tied the score. They'd won because they tied the score, except you've got to score one more run on DLS to win.
Gosh, yeah,
So it tells you, like, kids pay attention in maths, right? Don't just think if you're good at cricket you'll be okay. You need to pay attention in maths class also. Anyway, the other interesting game, as I said, was a Nagin Derby, man, and this was Sri Lanka batted first. They were put in by Bangladesh. We got 257 for 9. Sadira Samara Vikrama. Have you heard of this guy?
I had not prior to this game, which
93 of 72, smashed it.
Outstanding knock, yeah.
Yeah. And then Bangladesh.
I thought it was interesting, by the way. 257 doesn't look like a good score on paper, but the way they articulated it, it was brutal to bat. Like they said, this feels like a 290, 300 on most pitches, which is fascinating. But in that context, to make 93 off 72, even more special.
I'm sure you can look this up, but I'm pretty sure Sri Lanka scored about 256 in that semi-final in 96.
Man, that would be the most specific.
Keep talking. What is? Yeah, tell me what they scored, because I know Mahanama. I remember he scored like 66. No, Arvind scored 66. Mahanama got like 58 before he was retired hurt.
Okay.
And I think they were about 256. Is what we needed.
I'm pulling it up. Let's see. Sri Lanka 251 for 8.
Okay. Arvinda 66.
Silva 66 of 47 balls.
Okay, Mahanama 58 retired.
My goodness.
Yeah,
are you looking at the score?
No, it's just crap memory. This is what I'm saying.
That is insane. Like
and Arvinda bowled by Kumble, right? Middle stump went out of the ground. Mahanama carried off the ground. Anyway, sorry. Again.
When the score was oh my goodness.
Deviation.
My goodness. That's ridiculous.
Anyway, so but it felt like a similar type of situation, and Bangladesh really struggled to get going, right? They had this new kid called Tahid Hridoy.
Yeah.
Who hung around for a really long time.
By the way, I think I'm trying to think through. I think it was Ashwin on Twitter who drew attention to him.
Okay.
He said, watch out for this new kid from Bangladesh. And I was just like, man, Ash is going to be the ultimate cricket analyst when his time comes to hang up his boots. And I think he also drew attention to some some young Sri Lankan guy. I don't remember which one it was, but
Mm.
yeah. Anyway, he's had a good luck, good um, knack
Ash-
of calling them or
Ashwin is just
predicting them.
like an Indian coach in the making, right? Like
Yeah.
he's like
Oh,
going to be.
and Dunit Walalage from Sri Lanka, who's done pretty well with the ball. So just amazing, amazing how he saw that.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So, but I was watching this game, and basically Tikshana was injured.
Hmm.
He comes back, and he gets hit. I think he bowls a no ball. He gets hit for a six by Hridoy, and then the next ball he gets an LBW of Hridoy, and that effectively ends the game. And it was Pathirana came in towards the end and took a wicket just to put the finishing touches on it. So it was the
Hmm.
CSK boys that did the magic for Sri Lanka again. But they are playing um, like more than a collection of their parts, if that makes sense. Like New
Hmm.
Zealand is they're a good tournament team, right? Because they play
Hmm.
when you put them together, they
Yeah.
play better than what you would expect them to play. And Sri Lanka are doing that. They know their conditions. They've got the home team. They've got the crowd behind them. They've got the players to do it. Players are relatively fit. Dasun Shanaka led from the front here. I think he picked up 3 wickets. The first time I think he's bowled. How many overs did he bowl? 9 or 10.
9. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's the second time he's ever bowled 9 overs in his career. The first time apparently was on his debut.
Amazing.
So Dasun has he picked because Tikshana was injured. He had
Yeah.
to
So he
pick
had to
up the
bowl.
slack, right? And so it was. I mean, genuinely, it was just a perfect team performance, and
Yeah.
there wasn't any noggin dancing, but I mean, they're just doing well, and they are the defending champions. Lest we forget, we keep forgetting this because we focus on India, Pakistan,
Yeah.
maybe a bit of Bangladesh, but who are the defending champions who've won it the most times?
Yeah. Well said. Lots of action in the Asia Cup. I think too early to get into scenarios and predicting the semis and the final or the just where we go out of the Super Fours, the finals. I I think as long as India puts up a fighting performance against Sri Lanka, they'll be in a pretty good spot. Won't may not need a win against Bangladesh if there's a win tomorrow, thanks to the net run, right?
I
But
mean,
more
you'll get this right. Like Djokovic has just won the US Open,
number
and I don't think
24.
he's played his best. But champion teams and champions win even without playing their best.
Oh yeah, they find a way. You find a way through. You know how to win the biggest moments. You don't.
You
It's not about
winning
being the
ugly,
best.
right? And today was a pretty win, 326, what 356 for two, won by
Yeah,
228 runs. But
yeah.
winning ugly often is more important than these huge wins because you learn
Yeah.
more about yourself that way.
Very impressed with you quoting books by by tennis coaches, unless you just happen to say that. But Winning Ugly is the name of a book by Brad Gilbert, who coached Andre Agassi to the
No
1994
idea.
U.S. Open victory, and then coached Andy Roddick
I
to a
must have read the
2003
phrase
U.S. Open
somewhere and
victory.
I've just
It's a great
recycled it.
phrase. Excellent phrase. All right, DJ, lots else happening in the world of cricket. We do not have time to get into it. England playing New Zealand, a lot of ODIs, right? Obviously, his team's prep for the World Cup. England, New Zealand
Oh, I'm going to two
is
of those ODIs this week actually because there's a Lord's ODI and Noble ODI, so I'll be there.
Oh, very exciting. I mean, you have to give credit to Liam Livingstone, makes 95 off 78 balls, an outstanding knock. I do want to quickly hit on the fascinating Australia versus South Africa series, whereby Marnus became the first man, maybe the only man, to come in as a concussion substitute in the
Twice.
second format of a game
And make a 50 and then
and
a
made
100.
80 off 93. I mean, he walks in when the score, I think, was 93 for 6, right? 93
And
for 6 and makes 80 runs, gets Australia over the line in partnership, of course, with Ashton Agar, who made a nice 48. But yeah, imagine Cameron Green gets retired hurt, gets replaced with a concussion substitute in the form of Marnus Labuschagne, who again has done this before, right? That's sort of how he left his stamp on Test cricket as a whole. And then I was disappointed actually in the second ODI that he got selected in the starting 11 because that's not his strongest suit. You should just keep him as
but
a permanent concussion
but,
sub.
but how
Walks in
great
at
is this?
yeah,
How great is this? So we're talking ODI cricket between England, New Zealand, Australia, South Africa. We thought ODI
India,
cricket is dead.
Pakistan,
All
yeah,
of a
and
sudden,
it's just coming back to life for the World Cup. I think
Yeah.
it'll be dead again the day the World Cup
Yeah,
finishes.
but this is what I'm saying. The way to keep it
Yeah.
relevant is to only allow ODI cricket to be played in World Cup and Champions Trophy years, and play T20 in the other years, and then just have
Yeah.
Test cricket overlaying
In
all of
between,
this.
all three. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what the World Test Championship is for. Anyway, so yeah, of course, I will quickly highlight that Marnus came back in the second ODI, made another century, or made a century after making his 80. David Warner made a century. There's a weird stat going around about how he now has the most centuries as an opener across all format. And I give Warner full credit, outstanding cricketer. But that's true niche stat, right? Because Sachin opened in ODIs but played four in tests, right? Like it's not the same to say the
Are
most
we saying
centuries
he's the
by.
greatest opener in the history of the game?
But it's such a strange stat to say opening centuries across all formats. It's a little bit bizarre for me. But Australia put up a mammoth 392, and South Africa fell short. So some work for them to do as they work through the next three games of the 5-match ODI series. DJ, we're getting close to World Cup season, so it's going to be exciting. And by the time we're back next, we'll wrap up the Asia Cup, and we'll talk a little bit about the lead into the to World Cup season and everything that's coming. We'll expect us to have some fun preview episodes and then reviews as the weeks go in. We'll have some reaction episodes coming out. Lots of fun stuff with more details to follow soon. But DJ, that brings us to a wrap. Thanks for joining, chatting through it. Best days when India comes up with big wins, especially against Pakistan.
Always.
And we will be back at the end of the Asia Cup. This is the Edges and Sledges Cricket Podcast. As always, at One Tip One Hand on all the socials. Send us in your messages, send us your tweets. Leave us a comment if this is on YouTube. Like and subscribe it. We love to hear from you. We read all the comments. So definitely do that. And we'll be back next week. This is the Edges and Sledges Cricket Podcast, signing off.